Good day, everyone. Good day, Sir Pananchar. Today, we will tackle about the Jane Piaget stages of cognitive development. I am Kathleen B. Fabros, the first reporter, and my objective is to explain the Jane Piaget cognitive theory, focusing on how individuals construct knowledge through basic cognitive concepts, and explain sensory motor stage and object permanence. So before we proceed to our discussion, we will have our activity. It's Christmas and Uncle Bob is giving aguinaldo to the children. The 3-year-old Karen did not want to receive the 100 peso bill and instead preferred to receive 420 peso bill. Her 10-year-old cousin were telling her it's better to get the 100 bill, but they failed to convince her. So, my question, why do you think did Karen prefer 20 peso bill?
Kay daghan ma'am.
Yes, that's right. It's because at her age, she did not fully understand the concept of larger value. So kay 3-year-old pa man siya, iyang panghuna-huna is kwaon niya ang kung asa tong mas daghan. Kay wala pa man siya kabalo kung unsa or kinsa ang mas dako. So iyang cousin is 10-year-old na ana sa iyang huna-huna nga mas dako ang 100 kaysa sa 20 peso bill. So that's why iyang kwaon is ang 100 peso bill. So now we will know who is Jane Piaget. Jane Piaget was a Swiss psychologist known for his work on child development. Jane Piaget's cognitive theory of development is truly a classic in the field of educational psychology. This theory fueled other researches and theories of development and learning. It's focused on how individuals construct knowledge. So Jane Piaget was known in his theory cognitive development, where we understand how children acquire knowledge and learn. For 60 years, Jane Piaget conducted research on cognitive development. His research method involves observing a small number of individuals as they responded to cognitive tasks that he designed. These tasks were later known as Piagetian tasks. So Piagetian tasks is designed to assist a children's stage by evaluating their understanding of concepts like objective permanence, perspective taking, and conservation. So Piaget called his general theoretical framework genetic epistemology or developmental theory of knowledge, where it is study of origin of knowledge. Because he was interested in how knowledge developed in human organisms. Piaget was initially into biology, and he also had a background of philosophy. So knowledge from both this discipline influenced his theory and research of child development. And because of this, he came up to the stages of cognitive development. So Piaget examined the implication of his theory not only to aspect of cognition, but also to intelligence and moral development. This theory has been applied widely to teaching and curriculum design, especially in preschool and elementary curricula. So, kani nga theory, the cognitive development is na-apply ni siya sa karon nga generation or sa atuang kanang pag-teach or sa kanang mga bata nga kanang kay di ba na amantay kanang mga bata nga tong gitudluan is diverse. So naa sila nagkalain-lain nga panghunahuna. So dili nato sila masulti like kanang ang 1-year-old is tagaan day nato og multiplication or division sa ilaha nga kana nga diha nga stages pa nila. So ato apong lantawon kung unsa ang ilang makaya ra or unsa ang ilahang kanang ma-acquire ra sa ilahang panghunahuna. So now, let's move on to basic cognitive concept. First is the schema. Piaget used the term schema to refer to the cognitive structures by which individuals intellectually adapt to and organize their environment. It is an individual's way to understand or create meaning about a things or experiences. It is like the mind has a filing cabinet and each drawer has folders that contains file of things he has had an experience with. So schema is mao ni siya ang imong mga description or imuhang mga experiences nga imong ibutang sa imuhang file. For example, kanang ang bata is nakakita siya og dog for the first time niya nga nakakita siya og dog, kanang maka-create siya og schema nga it is a dog kay naay upat ka tiil, naay balahibo, naay ikog og kanang mo kahol. So the next day nga kung makakita na pud siya og dog is kanang makbutang niya sa ihatong i-pull out ang katong iyang schema or katong file nga iyang gibutang sa iyang mind, dayon iyang lantawon didto kung dog ba jud ni or kanang lain na pud nga kanang information. So kay it kanang kuan man, it kanang fit sa iyang description sa dog. So makaingon siya nga it is a dog. So next is the assimilation. This is the process of fitting a new experience into existing or previous created cognitive structure or schema. So for example, in one day nakakita siya og gamay nga iro. So ihatong i-pull out ang katong iyang description sa dog sa iyang mind or ang iyang schema para i-add ang information nga dili di ay dapat tanang iro is same size. So naa di ay sila ay nagkalain-lain nga sizes like naay gamay, naay dako, naay nipis or naay putot. Next is the accommodation. This is the process of creating a new schema. For example, the same child makita siya og lain nga animal nga fit or kanang same sa iyang previous schema or ang description sa iyang dog, iyang i-conclude nga it is a dog. But iyang mother kay maingon nga dili na dog, it's because it is goat. So ang bata is maka-create na pud siya og new schema sa goat. So next, equilibration. Piaget believed that people have the natural need to understand how the world works and to find order, structures, and predictability in their life. Equilibration is achieving proper balance between assimilation and accommodation. When our experiences do not match our schemata, plural of schema, or cognitive structures, we experience cognitive disequilibrium. This means there is a discrepancy between the perceived and what is understood. We then exert effort through assimilation and accommodation to establish equilibrium once more. So simple means equilibration is internal schema equal to external information. So kung unsa imong gihunahuna is dapat kanang match pud siya sa external information. For example, kanang imong gihunahuna kana nga tawo is dili ka gusto. Dayon ang gipakita pud sa tawo is sa kana nga tawo is kanang wala ka ginatagad or wala jud ka kanang dili jud ka niya gusto. So that is an example of equilibration. Kung unsa ang nasa imong nahuna is ma-fit siya sa external information. So para masabtan sa tanan, muhatag ko og one example nga naa didto ang nagkalain-lain nga cognitive concept. So for example, ang bata is naa siya'y mga dulaan nga blocks. So iyang gibuhat, iyang schema is iyang gipatong-patong ang katong nga blocks. Dayon sa assimilation, gitagaan siya og new toy car. Ang nasa ang hunahuna, i-fit niya ang kanang new information sa iyang skema. So, ang kwaon niya ang mga toy cars o iyahan na pong ipatong-patong. Pero, ang accommodation is nakahuna-huna siya nga ang toy car kung iyang ipatong-patong is maslide or mga tumba. So, naa sa iyang huna-huna nga dili di ay dapat tanang dulaan is kanang ginapatong-patong. So, ang katong nga toy car is iyahang gidulaan in another way. So, that's an example of accommodation. So now, let's move on to the first stages of cognitive development, which is the sensory motor stage. The first stage corresponds from birth to infancy. This is the stage when a child who is initially reflexive in grasping, sucking, and reaching becomes more organized in their movement and activity. The third sensory motor focuses on the prominence of the senses and muscle movement through which the infant comes to learn about himself and the world. In working with children in the sensory motor stage, teachers should aim to provide rich and stimulating environment with appropriate object to play with. During this stage, infant can learn about the world through their senses and action, understanding that things are still exist even if it is not seen. So, the example of first stages, the sensory motor stage, is if a baby shaking a rattle to hear its sounds. So, ang kanang dulaan dito sa bata, ang kanang, sa kanina kanang para mutingo, ang kanang mutingo kung ilang i-shake is mauna siya. Example na siya sa sensory motor. So, ilaharang kanang sound ra sa kanang rattle ang ilahang madungog. So, it is sense of hearing. So, kaning stage is solely based by kung unsa ang imuhang makita, imong nakuptan, imong nadunggan, or ang imuhang nalasahan is mauray nag-exist para sa bata or maura ang kanang ilahang paniwalaan or maura ang reality para nila. So, next is the objective permanence. Mauni siya ang under sa sensory motor stage. This is the ability of a child to know that an object still exists even when out of sight. This ability is attained in the sensory motor stage. So means, dili tanang butang nga dili makita is nawala or mawala. So, naay mga butang na bisan dili nato makita is still nag-exist Japon siya permanently. So, for example, playing a peekaboo. Kanang manghagwa kog bata. So, kung imuhang nawong istabunan nimo sa imuhang kamot is naa sa hunahuna sa bata nga imong nawong is not existing sa kalibutan. So, pag kuan nimo, pag tamtang nimo sa imong kamot is mukatawa sila kay it's because ni kanang reappear imuhang nawong. So kanang mauna ang nasilang hunahuna nga bisan kay wala man nila nakita is kanang wala naga-exist sa kalibutan. So dili di ay sa ilahang stages mauna ang ilahang hunahuna or mauna ilahang kanang paniwalaan. Kay mga bata pa man sila. Gets? Okay.
Good day everyone, I am Jeffrey Lucinio and I am here to report the stage 2 or the pre-operational stage. Objective: student will be able to describe and illustrate the key characteristic of the pre-operational stage, ages 2 to 7 and Piaget's theory or cognitive development. Stage 2 pre-operational stage. This stage covers from about 2 to 7 years old, roughly corresponding to the preschool years. Intelligence at this stage is intuitive in nature. At this stage, the child can now make mental presentation that is able to pretend the child is now very closer to the use of symbol. So, this stage covers from 2 to 7 years old, which end preschool, and at this stage, children can now pretend play using objects. Like for example, they use black to represent as their phone. Di ba pagkabata na to, na jitay time nga mukalitra tao na kung may katawag dayon butang dayon sa object nga pwede mabutang sa dunggan para maoy atong imong cellphone, di ba? Pre-operational stage is highlighted by the following. First, symbolic function. This is the ability to represent object and events. A symbol is a thing that represents something else, a drawing, a written word, or a spoken word. Comes to be understood as representing a real object like a real MRT train. It gradually developed on the period between 2 to 7 years. So, the symbolic function is that the child can pretend one thing to another thing. They pretend that real another things, like for example in the statement are the written word train, then children can now understand or imagine it as a real MRT train. Another example, a 4 years old Emma uses block to build a house. So from block she built it into a house. Next, egocentrism. This is the tendency of the child to only see his point of view and to assume that everyone also has his point of view. The child cannot take the perspective of the other. So egocentrism is that the child can only see his viewpoint and assume that other thinks what he thinks and they don't take the other's perspective. So for example, this one at he's riding a broom and at his point of view he's riding a horse and assume that others has the same point of view to them. Another example, Emma insists her friends can't have a block, not considering her friend perspective. So she only see her perspective and didn't take the perspective of her friend. Excentration. This refers to the tendency of the child to only focus on one aspect of things or events and exclude other aspects. So the centration, child only focus in one aspect of things or event. They exclude the other aspect of it. So example sa centration, Emma focuses only in black colors. She ignored the shape and size. So sa usa ra gid siya ka aspect sa usa ka butang nakafocus and gina-ignore niya ang lain pang aspect pareha sa atong example. And next, reversibility. Pre-operational children still have the inability to reverse their thinking. They can understand that 2 plus 3 is 5 but cannot understand that 5 minus 3 is 2. So in irreversibility, child struggles to reverse their thinking. Kabalo sila sa add pero dili sila kabalo basta subtract or dili sila kabalo sa baliktaran. For example, Emma struggle with simple math operation like taking away blocks. So if add kabalo siya pila ang idugang sa 2 para mahimong 5. Pero if para mahimong 2 ang 5, dili siya kabalo kung pilay ikuha or kuhaon. And next, animism. This is the tendency of children to attribute human-like traits or characteristics to inanimate object. When at night the child is asked where the sun is, she will reply, "Mr. Sun is asleep." So animism is the child use the characteristics of a human to an object. For example, Emma says black are naughty when they fall down. So she uses the characteristic of human which is a naughty. And iyang gamit para i-refer sa usa ka object which is ang black. Plus, transductive reasoning. This refers to the pre-operational child's types of reasoning that is neither inductive nor deductive. Reasoning appears to be from particular to particular. Example, if A causes B, then B causes A. So, ang transductive reasoning is a reasoning nga kanang particular to particular event. For example, Emma thinks her block house will fall down again because it doesn't like to be built.
Good day everyone, I am Deshan Baransabida and I am here to report about stage 3 and 4 of Jean Piaget's stages of cognitive development, with the objective to explain how children thinking develops from concrete logical reasoning like conservation, reversibility, classification, serration, discernment in the concrete operational stage to more advanced and abstract and systematic thinking like hypothetical, analogical, and deductive reasoning in the formal operational stage, and to apply these abilities through real-life examples and practice questions. And we are on the stage 3, which is the concrete operational stage. So what is concrete operational stage? This stage is characterized by the ability of the child to think logically, but only in terms of concrete objects. This covers approximately the ages between 8 to 11 years of age or the elementary school years. The concrete operational stage is marked by the following. So one is the centering. What is the centering now? So the centering refers to the ability of the child to perceive the different features of object and situations. No longer is the child focused or limited to one aspect or dimension. This allows the child to be more logical when dealing with concrete objects. So the centering. Considering both height and width when judging the amount of liquid in container. So, example, what if one glass can fit a 50 ml of soda and taas siya? And the other glass is gamay pero lawak and it can fit like 70 ml of soda. What do you think ang piliin sa bata? Kung sa operational stage pa, mauto ni mo ang bata nga pilion ang taas tungod kay they would think nga taas nga, diba? So dakagunod. But then sa concrete operational stage, kay dili na nimo sila mauto since they are the centers na. Meaning, gina-consider na nila kung unsa na glass ang taas, nipis, lawak, or nubo. They focus on more than one aspect. Now we have the reversibility. So during this stage of concrete operation, the child can now follow that certain operations can be done in reverse. So reversibility is the mental ability to undo or reverse an action or a thought process. It means that the child follow a line of reasoning back to its starting point. Example, knowing that 4 plus 3 is equals to 7 also means that 7 minus 3 is equals to 4. That's right. From the word itself, reverse, meaning balihon. In this stage, the children understand that addition and subtraction are inverse operation. They are well aware and can do it mentally. Next. Conservation. This is the ability to know that certain properties of objects like number, mass, volume, or area do not change even if there is a change in appearance. Because of the development of the child's ability of the centering and also reversibility, the concrete operational child can now judge rightly that the amount of water in the taller but narrower container is the same as when the water was in the shorter but wider glass. The children progress to attain conservation abilities gradually, being a pre-conserver, a transitional thinker, and then a conserver. So conservation is the understanding that certain properties like number, volume, or mass remain the same despite changes in the appearance or arrangement of the object. So for an example, a child understands that pouring water from a short glass into a tall glass doesn't change the amount of water. Kay, kabalo naman ang bata na if ibalhin nimo ang tubig nga na asa taas nga container dito sa gamay, kay dili na mausab since kina-consider nila logically ang identity sa tubig, meaning wala kinikuhai o wala pud dungagi. And they know na if i-reverse pa or ilain-lain ang sudlanan, dili Japon mausab ang tubig or ang amount kay same raman siya. Serration. This refers to the ability to order or arrange things in a series based on one's dimension, such as weight, volume, or size. For an example, if you were to task a children to arrange the sticks from shortest to longest, the children can systematically compare each sticks to the others, meaning kasabot na sila kung asang mas taas o nubo by comparing those sticks.
Now let's go to the stage 4, which is the formal operational stage. In this final stage of formal operations, covering ages between 12 to 15 years, thinking becomes more logical. They can now solve abstract problems and can hypothesize. This stage is characterized by the following. 1. Hypothetical reasoning. This is the ability to come up with different hypotheses about a problem and to gather and weigh data in order to make a final decision or judgment. This can be done in the absence of concrete objects. This individual can deal with what ifs question. So hypothetical reasoning or the scientific thinking, the ability to think about possibilities rather than being limited to reality. This is also called hypothetical deductive reasoning. In this stage, children often gets bothered by what ifs, like what if nag-confess ko niya? Friends na meron. And the friends na meron. What if it was going to work? Uy, just kidding. Ganun. So anyway, yun nga, they have the ability to come up with different hypotheses or endings.
Analogical reasoning. This is the ability to perceive the relationship in one instance and then use that relationship to narrow down possible answers in another similar situations or problem. The individual in the formal operation stage can make an analogy. If United Kingdom is to Europe, then Philippines is to Asia. The individual will reason that since the UK is found in the continent of Europe, then the Philippines is found in what continent? That's right, Asia. Through reflective thought, and even in the absence of concrete objects, the individual can now understand relationship and do analogical reasoning. So, analogical reasoning is the ability to understand relationship between relationships. It involves applying the logic structure of one known pair to an unknown pair. And I have the same example here about the 3 capital cities of each country. So what is the capital city of France? That's right, Paris. What is the capital city of Japan? Tokyo, alright. What is the capital city of South Korea? That's right, it is Seoul. So that is analogical reasoning. Lastly, deductive reasoning. This is the ability to think logically by applying a general rule to a particular instances or situation. For example, if the rule says all cats can fly and Luna is a cat, then logically Luna can fly. Even if they know cats can't fly, they understand the conclusion follows the premises. By the concrete operational thinkers naman, children might reject this statement because it contradicts their real-world knowledge about cats kay dili mulupad ang mga iring. But they can separate logical structure from the real-world truth. While the formal operational thinkers, like teens and adults, can detach from personal knowledge and follow the logic of the argument itself. And that will be all. Thank you.